also has the Young Champs program where we actually tried to, or we did scout the best talent from all 8 venues, all 8 ISL venues. And we've got about 40 kids right now staying at our academy in Navi Mumbai. And there is work going on out there. But it's at this point only restricted to those 40 kids. I think it's about between the age of, say, about 12 to 15. And we have some basic infrastructure out there, but only for those 40 kids right now. We are talking with the AIFF, and maybe Kushal can tell you whether there's a center of excellence on the way. It is something that we have discussed at some point of time. A national center of excellence would be great, but again, he would be the right person to answer those questions.
No, but in terms of ambition, what Reliance has put forth, outreach, all these millions that you want to reach out to. At the end of the day, like Abhishek Yadav is not here because he got stuck in Mumbai. But I would have asked him as a player, what would he be the biggest problems is if you have talent in school, you don't have access to playing facilities. If you pass out of school, you generally drop out of the whole system. So these are the gaps that initiatives like Reliance are trying to plug.
No, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, the RFY young youth sports that we had, we are playing that in 40 venues. So across 8 cities, we're playing football in 40 venues. So those 40 venues, we are trying to get it up to scratch. So
that's the point
there are significant amounts of money being invested to get those playing surfaces up to scratch. Absolutely. But it's more widespread. It's more just getting it up to a level of playing school and college football rather than say professional football. Like, I mean, DSK is.
I'm talking at the level of school.
Yeah, at school and college we are working.
So you're actually working on the grounds improvement and all, because that is a big issue.
Along with, even to be honest, I think the ISL clubs have done an outstanding job getting it up to a particular level, and maybe Javier can add on to that or clarify that significant amounts of money have been spent to get the playing surfaces at ISL venues up to a standard that can withhold a game being played every 4 days or 5 days. I mean, it's not easy to have that done in India. So there is money being put into infrastructure at the school level, at the league level. We're looking at improving the facilities at 8 venues. We also, apart from that, we're also facilitating further investment in infrastructure at a club level. So we're encouraging ISL clubs to invest in infrastructure. So for example, Pune City FC, that's the ISL club based out of Pune, has also gone and built its training, built 2 training pitches. And Atletico de Kolkata has gone and they've actually gone and renovated 1 pitch and which they're using as a training ground, and they have plans to also build an academy. So 1 is to do it ourselves, and 2 is to make an environment which is conducive to investment for the clubs, trying to encourage them to spend as well. If we try and do everything ourselves, it won't be possible.
No doubt. Javier, you said there was a point you wanted to address later on, if allowed, the floor.
See, there is a fundamental flaw in infrastructure or sports infrastructure in this country, and let's say sports stadiums. As Joy rightly mentioned, India has 98 stadiums over 20,000 capacity. So the lack of this whole story about lack of infrastructure, in Chile we have 10 stadiums, and we were ranked a couple of months ago 2nd in the world, and twice winners of Copa America and all that. Yeah, I like to brag.
Worth bragging.
Of course, we waited 90-something years to win something. So let me brag a little bit. But no, there is a fundamental flaw. Stadiums in India, and I'm going to talk only about stadiums, are not built for sport. They're built for VIPs. When you go to a stadium, when you go to a 58,000 capacity stadium, which I'm not going to say which one, but everybody will find out, 58,000 capacity stadium that cost about $200 million, and you see that the stadium has 2 dressing rooms, and each dressing room is 80 square meters, and you have 3 showers, combined shower toilet, you see that there is just absolutely no respect for the athlete. And Joy made a fantastic column on Economic Times. What we do when we do inspections, we spend 95% of our time in what is called the competitions area. Because at the end of the day, if there is sport, it's because of the 20, or if there is football, it's because of the 22 guys that are running around there and the 3 match officials. And they are priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 100. Then media comes. Then the VIP comes. It's unthinkable that you have a VIP lounge that is much better than a dressing room. Unthinkable. It defies logic. It just defies logic. The single most important stakeholder are the athletes. The second single most important stakeholder are the fans. So when I was talking about things that we couldn't do now because ISL is going on, bucket seats. Boss, bucket seats in Kochi Stadium, or in Indira Gandhi Stadium in Guwahati, in Sarusajai. In Salt Lake Stadium, 85,000 bucket seats, or actually it's going to be 84,322, whatever the number is. How can you do an operational planning, without knowing exactly how much people, to the number, can get into a stadium? How can you do it? It's impossible. How can you do a planning without knowing how many people should enter through a gate and how many people should be seated in that area? That's the fundamental flaw. When architects and people were thinking about facilities here, and particularly stadiums here, they were first thinking about themselves, about how am I going to watch a match, or how am I going to be better seen watching a match. First and foremost. Second, they thought, how is media going to approach me? Third, where am I going to be so I can do a speech? Fourth, but it's true. It's true. Go to every single stadium in this country. It is true, sidelines are terrible. Until they came along, fields of play were embarrassing. And they have spent tons of money, and they don't get enough credit. ISL and IMG Reliance and FSDL, they don't get enough credit for the amount of money they have spent on the field of play. It's the fact that we're able to have a league or a tournament here to be played under these conditions with matches played every 3 or 4 days is because they have spent a lot of money into developing the ground. And they have understood that the single most important stakeholder is what happens on the field, or how it looks on TV, whatever we want to look at it. But what happens on the ground and the people who are playing on the ground, that's the single most important stakeholder. And that's the fundamental flaw of Indian sports infrastructure, for sure.
Oof. Anyway. Okay. Nikhil, coming back to...
I also don't go watch games. It's very tough to go watch games, very honestly. Wherever you are, I mean, it's just, it takes you hours and hours to get into a stadium and get out of it. So it's tough. Unless, of course, you're a VIP at your own home game, then it's easier.
No, forget...
I'm just stating.
I'm just... now, if you have, like, say, places like the Northeast, or Kerala, or Goa, is one... you are speaking for the Northeast. Now, all the work that is happening there, how, from your perspective, where do you see this? As I said, the whole idea is a 10-15-year horizon. Forget India. You are focused in your arena of activation, which is Northeast. I'll ask the same question to you, Neil. In your Pune, there's a reason that Pune FC came out. There's a reason that you are in. Over the next 10-15 years, which is actually the horizon that everybody, in fact, it was alluded to earlier, where do you see, again, the pain points, and how will that, what are the mitigating factors which one says under 17 or whatever, will take that forward?
See,
Just the Northeast. Let's
yeah,
forget
we're
the
just,
rest.
just speaking on the Northeast. All the pain points come into play when there's no culture. When there's culture, culture transcends infrastructure barriers. It will transcend barriers of coaching. It will transcend barriers of food. A lot of pain points that are in sport otherwise. So if you have young kids whose number one sport is football, they will play football irrespective of whether they get a great artificial turf or a great Saru Sujai ground or whether they play it in rubble. So they will play football. And at least 5 out of the 7 states plus Sikkim, the culture of football is very, very strong. So you'll see kids in every nook and corner playing football, whether it's 5-a-side, 4-a-side, 3-a-side, 1v1, 2v1 inside their houses. So they're going to play football. The question is, wherever they are, can we track them well in terms of, is there a facility at 12 or 13 where a coach can track them, can bring them, where it's easy for them to come in? It shouldn't be that there's a boy who's almost at the Bangladesh border. He has to travel all the way to Shillong, maybe 100 kilometers in the hilly area to come play football. Now that infrastructure is something that the government and it's not something that only a club can handle or all the clubs can handle. If there's a local club there wherein he's playing and then gets tracked, is scouted, then can be brought in, that works in a footballing sense. But that might be a pain point as well. You might never track that boy who's been playing and who's done, as Jitu said, about 1,000 hours, much like what the Brazilians do. You don't have to bring them into coaching centers till the time they're 12 or 13 or 14, because they're playing on the streets, they're finding solutions for themselves. In those tight corners where there's no option, they will find solutions in their head themselves. But after 14, can you bring them in, or 12, can you bring them into coaching centers to be coached by good coaches and hone their technical skills, their mental skills, their tactical skills? That will be a pain point as far as the Northeast is concerned. Other than that, there doesn't need to be an extra effort focused on stadiums or anything else for that matter to track talent in the Northeast.
Neil, taking that, I'll just extend that.
Yeah.
The culture is very clear.
Yeah.
When you see that these are the pockets are there because the culture is there. Pune is cricket country, or Maharashtra is largely cricket country. And what Reliance, Chirag, that will be the last, then I'll open it to the floor. Reliance is actually trying to take it all across India. And AIFF is trying to take it all across India, where that culture issue is a massive thing. Now, sticking to Pune, Maharashtra, the catchment. The culture issue, isn't that the reason why Pune FC, for instance, ultimately was not able to draw in? Like, Bengaluru is a 3-year-old club, but it had that, it just needed the club back after HAL and all went. Bengaluru came and the culture was there, so boom, it exploded. What Pune FC tried, Chirag, to build, it was trying to build that culture.
Yeah.
So that, I think, isn't that the biggest challenge? To build a culture where maybe it doesn't exist to the extent that is required for takeoff.
I don't think it just has to do with culture. In building a culture is, so I grew up in California. I grew up in the 80s. And back then, baseball and American football and basketball were obviously the most popular things, a little bit of ice hockey. But soccer was not that big. We didn't have a professional league. We weren't really qualifying for many World Cups until 90. But when we started at 4 years old, we played because it was fun. But then later on, we started playing because we had a very clear player pathway. I knew that if I played really hard, I'll make a club team and we'll start traveling around the region. If I played harder, I'll traveling around America. And if I played harder when I'm 15, I started going to Europe and playing there. And it's still, only when I was 16 did the Major League Soccer even start. But we didn't need a culture. What we needed was something clear for me and my parents and my community to know that if this boy or this girl works really hard, or if this coach works hard, where are they going to go? So at DSK, what we're trying to do is clearly that, a very structured player pyramid. When I moved here in 2009, I didn't see that at all. If any parent talked to me and said, look, my 10-year-old's very good at football, what do I do? No matter where they're from or what they're doing, I had no idea to tell them. I said, I heard that there's some coach who's pretty good over here in Delhi doing something. Well, where does he go from there? I don't know. Even now, I don't really know what to say most of the times. Come join us. Last night we launched our soccer schools in Pune. It's for 6 to 14-year-olds. So I'm clear that every parent who puts their son or daughter in our soccer school knows they're going to meet a professional player each time from our team, and that we'll keep taking them to the academy where they can join when they're 14 years old as an aspirational destination. From 14 to 18, hopefully they stay with us, and eventually they go into our professional team. If they don't get anywhere there along the way, we can get them to sports management programs, coaching licensing courses, or something completely different. Hopefully they walked away with a lot of life skills and a lot of good experiences and a lot of friends that they can network with later. So for me, it's less about culture. It's about a very structured player pathway that's been missing in India for as long as I can, even now. And I feel that if we had 20 to 30 of these types of programs, say DSK as a model, it would completely come up. What Bangalore FC has done is created a culture a completely different way, in a very beautiful way. They created a fan culture. They created pride. And that's also very, very, a very good approach to do it as well. But in terms of building an industry, we need that structured player pathway where we can never hope to expect that the game is going to grow the right way. So the culture will come. It may come in America. People say that America is not a football country right now. I think it is. Because if you go and watch there's a World Cup game that US is playing in, or a Major League Soccer game that's going on in certain markets, people really care. But why do they care? Because the game has grown in a particular way, in a very genuine, authentic way over so many years. So out of 300 million people, yeah, some people might not like it and make fun of it. But out of a big core will give their life for it because they love the game and they've consumed it in various ways. And that's all we're trying to do, is give them authentic, genuine ways to consume the game, whether as a parent, as a coach, as a referee, as a player, as anybody, as a fan, to consume the game. And I think that's what's been missing, at least in many parts of the country, for up until now.
So Chirag, is that the reason why Reliance believes in partnership with the AIFF, this whole all-India project will ultimately work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the path that AIFF had chosen, and we firmly believe that football needs to be a pan-India sport. It can't just be limited to a few pockets. And that actually shows with the grassroots program as well, that we've tried to take the grassroots program across the country rather than just limit it to about 10 or 11 states.
Okay. Questions? Questions, no statements again. 1 second, at the back.
Hi, my name is Rahul. I am from SMX. My question is from Chirag and Javier both. Chirag, when you showed us that map of current state of Indian football, there were bright spots in the map, and there were the dark spots, like the center of India and the north of India. Since you both have must traveled a lot and seen the infrastructure developing in those areas, can you tell us, apart from those bright spots, which are the next upcoming brighter spots in India?
I mean, from my point, I can tell you Hyderabad is a good venue. It's had a culture of football for the longest time. It's a lot of the former national team players and coaches have come from there. Ahmedabad, as was discussed in earlier panel discussions, got a new venue come up. It's hungry for football. It looks like a bright spot. As mentioned earlier, Kashmir has shown tremendous response at Division 2. Maybe that could be another venue. I think that Vizag has always had a rich culture of football. It didn't really have, it's not really been prominent in club football, but it's done fairly well. Yeah, I mean, these 4 venues for me would be, in my view, are ripe for a good club to come in. And
Well, that still leaves the whole center of India.
Well, you have Kolhapur. That football is huge over there. They have a very interesting facility. There was a women's match between India and Netherlands. That was a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. where they had 25,000 or 30,000 spectators. The interest over there is huge. It's not a big market, of course, but if anything, the interest in that part of central India is massive. And it also goes to show that we keep talking about infrastructure, and infrastructure is probably one of the reasons why I'm here in India. But infrastructure at the end of the day is a means, and it's not the final objective. And that's very important for everybody to understand, that if we keep putting infrastructure as the excuse, we're going to get nowhere. We seriously not going to get nowhere, because India is not like China, where the party secretary can go and say, let's build 40,000 pitches. It's not like that. Joy always say, and I made my objective to quote Joy as many times as possible here in this panel. Well, we have a wager. We have a wager.
Joy quotes.
Yes, exactly. That's why. So he always says, 9 out of the 20 World Cups have been won by South America, and I invite everybody to go and watch the South American facilities. Chile is the best one of the whole lot with the facilities, because 10 new stadiums have been built since 2008. But you should see where Alexis Sanchez used to play, or where Arturo Vidal used to play, or where Ronaldinho used to play, or where Neymar, or where Messi, or where Maradona, or we're just making excuses. The first and foremost, most important thing is to create an environment where kids can go out and play. And with 11 million, we're doing that. We're really doing that. We're going to schools and creating an environment. The first barrier of entry is the ball. That's the first single barrier of entry. And if you don't have a ball, you have socks. And that's the way most of these great players got brought up. So one part is infrastructure, of course, in central India, but there is a lot of interest. And there is a lot of interest in Kashmir, there is a lot of interest in Chandigarh, there is a lot of interest in Ahmedabad, there is a lot of interest in Hyderabad, of course, with Fateh Hyderabad, what they're doing. So it can get pan-India. But the only way it will get pan-India is creating the interest, making people play more.
Hi, my name is Madhurima Bhatia, and I'm from Ipsos, which is a global market research company. My question is for Javier. Javier, now that the clock is ticking away for the World Cup 2017, I want to know just two things. How many teams, how many countries are participating? And second, how many cities of India can see live action during the tournament, during the championship, that is?
Sure, the Under-17 World Cup will be held from October 6 to October 28, 2017. It has 24 countries that qualify. Already 5 have qualified. Japan, DPR Korea, Iran, Iraq, and of course India, for virtue of being hosts. It will have 52 matches. Will be played in 6 venues. The venues have been ratified so far: Goa, Guwahati, Kochi, Kolkata, Navi Mumbai, and New Delhi. Each venue must have 4 training sites as well for the teams. The qualification, there will be 5 European teams, 2 teams from Oceania, 4 African teams, 4 South American teams, the 5 teams that I already mentioned from Asia, and 4 teams from North, Central America, and the Caribbean.
Hi, I'm Garima again. So my question will be related to my experience which I had in Salt Lake Stadium. I was studying in my, I was doing my sports management there from ISWBM. So there was an I-League opening tournament which was hosted by Salt Lake Stadium, Churchill Brothers versus East Bengal. So in the whole stadium, me and my hostel mate, 2 girls were there. And trust me, the stadium's situation was in damp. So we didn't have a good experience watching that. So my question will be, what are you doing to create an experience to the spectators who will be watching it on the televisions, as well as to the people who are going over there and watching it? Because cricket has created such a memorable experience to a person, to a to a person who is going to the stadium to watch it, but I'm not sure whether football will be able to create such an experience to go and watch or have a good time. This is what an spectator will look forward to. So what is your take, or what steps you are taking to have that?
1 minute. No? Is the question because you were two girls and a whole bunch of rowdies, or all the rowdies had a bad experience?
Me and my classmates, to have to know what all the sports, how to organize it. That was
Okay.
a
So
knowledgeable
you went
thing.
it as an exercise,
Yeah.
Well,
not as a fan.
one thing with the World Cup, there was a very good foundation, I can say, laid by the investments that different clubs had made in the past couple of years, particularly on the ISL, on the facilities, concentrating mostly on certain areas of the facilities, let's say competitions area, VIP area, media areas. What we have tried, and here the investment is from the state governments and from the central government, which has made it a little bit more interesting, is that to do investment or to create infrastructure into areas where usually wouldn't be made. So, for example, bucket seats. And I keep going back to bucket seats, but that's important and that's critical for the spectator experience. Maybe you had a good experience on a cricket match because you had an actual seat. But I've been to cricket matches and I can tell you that the experience is not so great as a spectator, and it doesn't differ much at all from the experience that I can have as a spectator in Fatorda, as a venue or as a facility. Second thing, many things that were neglected. Toilets, one huge thing, and they're changing the complete sewage in Kochi. They're changing the complete sewage in Salt Lake. They have done a lot of work in changing the complete sewage in Fatorda. Believe it or not, they're changing the complete sewage, or they're working a lot on the complete sewage and on the toilet facilities here in Nehru Stadium in Delhi. So there are small steps. We're not going to change the complete landscape. And the Under-17 World Cup is not going to be able to solve every single infrastructure problem for every single facility here in the country. But it is an opportunity to change certain things that were never approached. Emergency evacuation, fire NOCs. All those are mandatories. You cannot play without a fire NOC. You can't play a World Cup without a fire NOC. That's a safety hazard. One seat, one person. You can't have 80,000 people on a 55,000 capacity. All that goes in line with part of the experience, just getting the basics right. What ISL has done and has done fantastically well is they're getting the second part very well, which is giving the spectators another experience, which is more akin to an IPL experience. We're engaging sponsors, engaging corporates, engaging fan zones, commercial activities, etc. But what we want to go one step before and one step prior into giving the spectators at least the basic. At least that they can go, and if they have to go to the toilet, they can go to the toilet without wondering what's going to come up from the toilet, which is what happens now. So that will create and will improve your spectator experience in a stadium for sure.
Again, you probably had that experience because it was Salt Lake back in the day, but I would encourage you to catch at least an ISL game, because I've been to all the venues and it's improved significantly. I mean, I'm sure that even DSK Shivajin's done an outstanding job with them in Pune, and Bangalore out there has done a great job as well. So there are these new venues and some of the newer clubs who've actually invested a significant amount of money in improving the spectator experience, and I'm sure the experience you had a few years back will not be the same that you have right now.
Okay, I think unless any of you have closing comments. Last.
Chiranjit Oja from the Fan Garage. Two questions I have. First is Pune specific. One of the problems that all the clubs from Pune have suffered so far is that the Balewadi Stadium, the main stadium where the matches are played, it's pretty far from the city, right? Pune FC struggled because of that. Pune City are struggling now. DSK Shivajins also are struggling because of that. And from what we're hearing, DSK Shivajins is also planning to build a stadium but that is also not that close to the city. So it's still taxing for the fans to travel all the way to the stadium to watch the game. So what would be the idea to address that and potentially solve it? The other question is that
One question.
All right. No, you're absolutely right. Balawadi's where we're situated is on one part of Pune, and Balawadi's on the other. And I'm sure Chirag could attest to it. Many more years of me being there it's challenging to get people to come out. FC Pune City's doing a pretty good job, but it's still not getting full each time. We are so one of the things that I've appreciated about the DSK as the ownership is their long-term vision. So as I said, this is a dream city that's being built right now. It's a 300-acre township, and it has a 7 to 10-year plan. In that dream city would be 10,000 people living there as well, plus 2 schools. So when we decided to invest in this academy, invest in football development, infrastructure development, the Liverpool partnership, it was never about what's going to happen between now and a few years from now. It was about what's going to happen 2025, 2030. So that 15,000-seat stadium that we're building, we've already designed it. We have the land allocated. The goal is that when we're selling flats and units right now in the Dream City, which is all within the same township area. So yes, we will play in Balawadi for a while, and it's fine. It's a decent stadium, and we won't be probably filling the seats every game in, game out. However, we know that down the line we will have our own community like you see in Championship Division or lower divisions in England, or you see in other parts of Europe, where you have the community living around the stadium. And you have the homegrown players, not just in the same city, but in the same community. So the vision was already set out from day one. It's just that now we have to have the patience and the persistence to put it together.
All right. I think we have run out of time, so we'll move immediately into the next. Ayaz, could you take over, please? Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Vineet is giving a... Sir, please. Thank you. Thanks.
I'll send it to you. I'll just remove this.
Before I can hand over to Vineet, just a housekeeping announcement. So there's a lot of similar Adidas bags that have been handed over to everybody, and one gentleman had put his wallet in his bag, which I think may have been inadvertently picked up by somebody else. If I can request you to please peep into your respective black Adidas bags so we can get the owner back to his wallet and vice versa. Thanks so much. Vineet, over to you. Super, he's found it. Brilliant.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, a very intense session, and after such an intense session, again, one word that, of course, bothers all of us, and that's the topic that is given to me, is about building a sustainable sporting culture. Now, instead of it being a one-way street,